Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to the Gundam Explained show. I'm your host, Adam Blue. Joining me, Steven, Bayless of Midnight Hatter. Steven, what's up, man?
Not a lot. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't there yesterday on your show, which was pretty cool. You had a musical guest on, Wayne Snow.
Yeah. Howling at the Earth. Always fun talking to him. I've been trying to peer pressure him into watching G-Quux, obviously, because he's a huge Fooly Cooly guy,
Oh,
and
okay. That would
and so
make sense.
it's like I'm dying to talk to him about the Easter eggs and the Evangelion links and all that kind of stuff. But also, he's got a fundraiser benefit going on for his partner coming up on October 26th. So he's putting on this huge Renfest type deal where it's like from noon to 9 p.m. He and like 8 other musical guests are going to be performing. They've got like booths and activities and vendors and all kinds of stuff. They've got a GoFundMe going. She's having surgery and they're just trying to kind of fundraise ahead of that. So it was for a good cause. And like, obviously, one of the, I don't know, because you and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time where it's like whenever we see a friend in need, we always kind of like want to use whatever platform, whatever influence we kind of have to show a light on it. And so, I reached out to him and said, hey, let's do it,
Cool. No, that's cool. Yeah. So check that out if you guys haven't. Again, I wasn't on it, so I need to go back and watch it. It was my oldest birthday. It was pretty cool. There's this restaurant down the street. Italian restaurant's great, and there was a bunch of us there.
Well, I mean, family always comes first because, like, obviously, when my second was born, how many weeks without me on the show did you go? Like,
it was about 3 or 4. I got to a point where Kyle reached out. He's like, "Hey, man, I'll help you out." And I was like, "Oh yeah, good idea." Actually, yeah.
So, spoiler alert. I'm looking at having Kyle on my show next week.
Oh, excellent.
So bring your arguing boots. We are going to debate with Kyle. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to bring some good ones for him.
Yeah.
Or it's just good for him to dismantle things. You know what I mean? Like you might just bring up a concept you're questioning. He does a good job of kind of dismantling.
Yeah.
Let's see. That was all happening. Was it because there's not too much like Gundam-y that's been happening with me because I had that situation. My daughter moved in, and so you guys saw the video last week of the Gundam office tour, and that was because most of my time, instead of like researching or doing stuff for video, it was like, well, I've had to rearrange this room, this office, put a bunch of cool, awesome Gundams up that I haven't talked about in a while. And I was like, man, maybe I should just film it. And I think it's kind of cool. I've done a little bit of that in my old office, but with this one, it's just kind of cool to look back at the certain things I liked and had out. What was really cool on the comments of the video was how much people really a lot of cool positive comments. But also like people liking the metal builds, which I appreciate because they weren't cheap. But no, it's really because metal builds are pretty cool. Like I'm like thankful that I have some.
Dude, if I had the disposable income, like that metal build Zeta is chef's kiss, fantastic. I do love that you have a Zeta shelf. I'm a little disappointed that the size of your 8th MS team shelf seems to be a little bit larger, at least from what I saw in the video. I was like, wait a second, there seems to be more 8th MS representation here than Zeta.
I think there is more Zeta. I think it's because the Zeta shelf was kind of a mess because there's so much. The 8th MS team, it like looks so clean, like you see everything. You see the whole squad.
A little bit more like a diorama.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and that's the thing with my Zeta shelf. I've been thinking like, should I prune some away? Because I do have doubles. Like I have 2 Zetas in there. I have 4 Mark IIs. So it's like maybe I can move some.
As long as they're numbered 1 through 3, then you're good. Like that's canon. That's canon. Perfect. Like that makes sense.
I'll have to double check, but I think it's just the default that's been, because it's like a Robot Spirits for anime, a Robot Spirits Cause Signature, the original Robot Spirits version, and then I have a fixed figuration version. So it's just I love that suit.
Do you feel like you need to have like sets sometimes. Like, for
It
instance,
depends. Yeah.
I've got the real grade Zaku Char Zaku 2, and the mate to that, if you will, is the real grade 2.0
Yeah.
RG, the RX-78. I've got right here is the Gundam Front Tokyo RX-78. The Sharzaku mate to this is the Origin Sharzaku that we've got over there. But then I also have the Origin RX-78 from Kukuru's Doan's Island, the Sharzaku mate to that one. Get this, I use the Origin for the Gundam Front Tokyo, but I use the Revive for the Origin.
Oh.
Like, basically, when I pose them all together, I'm like, these are the pairs that go together.
Okay, so it's like a custom pair. Like, because I thought at first you were thinking of like, oh, I need to get the set that they sell that go together. But I kind of like your way of doing it. It's like, let's keep this canon, but I think these designs go better together.
100%.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, I always pose my double Zeta with the Lightning Zeta Build Fighters Zeta,
Oh,
because to me, I'm like, wait a second, if the Zeta Gundam was, bashed to hell at the end of Zeta, then in double Zeta it would be like the Lightning Zeta. You know what I mean? Like, that's the
yeah.
canon look for 0088 Zeta. I don't
That's a
know.
pretty good.
Maybe that's like my weird head canon that
No,
I go into.
no, that's cool. That's the part I think about Gunpla, really, but Gundam is like, even though there's lore and stuff, like you could really make this stuff your own in so many ways.
Exactly.
And it's funny because it's not like I have any interesting like story really going on with mine, except for instance, I have them grouped by series. So there's that part of me that I get sets in terms of these things that are purchasable consumer goods go together. So I buy them and they go together, instead of just like, oh, I'll pair these things. But sometimes it might be where I don't really care too much. Like, for instance, with the Seed Freedom, I love getting the Mighty Strike Freedom stuff. But it's like, I don't really
Yes,
care
you
about
do.
Kira. I don't really care about too much of the other stuff. So, like, I have a Mighty Strike Freedom shelf. And I do have some other Seed stuff, and Seed is pretty cool, but it's really just a background thing, But like on my in the video I showed the mantle from the fireplace. It's more of that like main character Amuro energy, because I have the Perfect Great Unleashed RX-78 2 next to the high new metal build, but also next to the metal build Zeta, because even though it's not Amuro, that's still that heroic through line. Of the
I
main
mean, I'm
character.
sure in some manga, Amuro piloted the Zeta instead of Camille. There's probably shoot, even in that game, my favorite video game, Gundam
Oh,
versus Zeta
Zeta,
Gundam. If you
yeah.
play through the Amuro storyline, you can like unlock the storyline where he gets the Mark II
I
and
really
he
need to
joins
play that.
Yuge. Oh
Because I
man,
was even
so good.
thinking today how, man, they don't make these Gundam games like they used to. I
They
was
don't.
thinking
It's
Rise from the
crazy.
Ashes specifically, but that one, just in terms of the replayability, has to do with interesting story, because replayability of like, the recent build. What is the Gunpla build game? Oh my God, Breakers.
Breaker,
Yeah, the
which is
Breaker.
so, for those of you familiar with the deep lore of the channel, the idea that Gundam Breaker 4 slips your mind is so perfect, because like that is such a canon event for the Gundam Explained
You're
MCU,
right.
or the GECU, if you will, is that like Gundam Breaker 4 was the like galvanizing moment of your
Yeah.
channel. That
It's what separated me doing this like for fun and like enjoyment, to like sort of like going into this like it's like the Star Wars theory thing. I don't really know what I'm getting
100%.
at, but it's funny how it's like that. But yeah, it's funny. I forgot Gunbreaker, but it's kind of like that with this. You're just playing through, these stories are absolutely random, and even with SD Gundam Battle Alliance or whatever, it's just these random characters. And with the Gundam for Zeta Gundam, even Dynasty Warriors, being able to go through the stories of the characters, and the events that I think really heightens the experience you're having. It makes it more sticky. Oh, I want to play through for this story. I want to play through this story.
Yeah, 100%,
But
man.
with Breaker 4, nah, I mean,
Yeah,
but again, it's a different thing. It's a different, and then I got to remember, people want to build Gunpla, and it's funny how that reflects like as much Gundam as I have, and I do have a lot of Gunpla, don't get me wrong. But Gunpla's secondary to what I like about Gundam, you know? And
Yeah,
so, yeah, like, for instance, I would rather buy the latest Gundam video game than like a badass Gunpla, you know?
I totally get
So,
that,
yeah.
100%, and I think that that's a large reason why it's taken me so long to kind of get back into the Gunpla phase of things, whereas,
Mhm.
I'm working on Gundam card game things, and, like,
Yeah.
I
All
I
your
I I
customs and stuff.
recently rewatched Witch from Mercury again, like, why?
Oh,
I don't know.
again? Well, hey, why not? Man,
Why not?
I'm glad you keep bringing that up because I gotta go and finish IBO. Even someone messaged me on Instagram saying, "I love your videos. I hope you continue watching IBO." That's it. I
That's
mean,
it.
that's like a cool, honest, genuine, like, feedback, you know? So I wanna get
I got
that's
an excellent comment recently on the fan theory that I did around Camille
yeah.
joining Neo Zeon. And I think that a lot of it's tied into Super Robot Wars Y, where, like,
Oh,
Camille does join Neo Zeon in that,
yeah.
and they said, "Look, I'm probably 3 years too late in doing this, but I just finished G-Quux, and the idea of Gundam What Ifs sounds really awesome, and I hope you continue doing these videos at some point in the future." And I was
Ooh,
like, "That's a very good point." Is like, because G-Quux is the
the what
Gundam
if.
What If, right?
And Super Robot Wars, people love it for that.
Yeah.
And fan fiction is fun in general. Even my Ghost to the Frame fan fiction, those videos did better than a lot of other videos did. Um, it's just, yeah, the AI process for doing it in that way took way too long. Um,
100%. Yeah,
that was,
I can get that for sure.
yeah. Um, but no, that's actually good. So like, are you then gonna start maybe noodling around for some other what ifs?
Yeah, I mean, always. What's funny is it's like I always kind of come up with Gundam what ifs for my Gunpla. Like the first custom Gunpla that I did after kind of getting back into it back in 2016 was that whole idea of like what if Ruluka and Judo came back to Earth during Unicorn instead of like during Crossbone.
Oh
And so
yeah,
that Zeta Plus that I designed that was like it was a Ruluka custom Zeta Plus. It was all around like and the way that I designed it was just like instead of a beam rifle, she used a Gatling gun because Ruluka is not a character that is like a precision type character. Obviously, she's more of like a spray and pray type,
yeah,
like I
she's
see her as more like a Troa Barton, where it's like I'm just gonna have as many big guns as I can, shoot as many bullets, and whoever gets
yeah,
hit gets hit. Whereas, uh when Camille pilots a Zeta Gundam, it's like laser focus pinpoint
yeah.
shot. So there's that element of storytelling that I've always loved about Gunpla, and I definitely want to bring that to the video content for sure.
So yeah, it's like, okay, so that's a pretty cool idea. Like you would make a custom Gunpla that, and it would have this lore you would make. But yeah, I wonder outside of it being based in Gunpla, what? And this is interesting. Like, would you base a fan fiction or fan idea, a what if based on a mobile suit idea or a character interaction idea? Because one could lead to the other. Because I was just thinking
True.
earlier, what if in Char's counterattack, there's a moment where Amuro kills Char in front of Quest, and then maybe Quest becomes this like super crazy, and then like maybe there's a sequel, and then she has like new mobile armor. That's like the next step of the Alpha Zero, right?
Yeah,
Is okay.
because
Like
they make a beta zero too, so it's like
oh, okay. So yeah, and it could be like yeah. So that's always see that's fun sometimes around the character, and then that can kind of force you to come up. Okay, what would then be? Because I wonder if that's what happens when they're making a UC story, and they're like, okay, guys, this is what the story's going to be, and then the mechanical designer's like, okay, well then how would it have to look? I love that
yeah.
idea where it's like they're not like, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want, like the Zeta. It's more of like the
Wait a
Mark II.
second. What do you mean by the
No,
well?
it's more of like the Mark II, where it's like, okay, this is supposed to look like the Gundam.
So it's funny you mention that because it's like a couple of weeks ago we were talking about emo Camille in the Arsenal base game, right? Where he joins the Titans instead of joining the AU.
Oh yeah,
And that in and of itself is a character interaction, but that kind of lends itself to the whole Zeta being in Titan's
Yeah.
colors. But I think you could take it one step further because obviously the transformation technology that the Titans had compared to the AU, the Zeta would not look like the Zeta. It would not behave like the Methus or like the Mark II. It would behave more like a Gaplant to me, you know? And
Hmm.
so I think of
Okay.
it almost as if the Zeta were truly a Titans version of the Zeta, instead of having a backpack, it would have wing binders on the arms where like it would have the same shaped wings, but instead of folding to the side like the Gaplant, maybe the arms fold underneath when it transforms into its Wave Rider mode. And so then the wings that are on the arms deploy underneath. And
That's actually pretty cool. Um,
so it like you said, it's like
okay.
the form informs the function,
Yeah.
right?
I love that stuff. Yeah, that'd be fun to do where it's like concept. Like it's almost like a randomizer, and maybe we can ask AI later, like randomize a what if concept in UC. Okay,
Yeah.
now and then it's like let's design what that mobile suit, what a hypothetical mobile suit of whatever it is, because whoever is the main character wherever they're at, yeah, I love that stuff. And that kind of feeds into like what the battle between the Kasai Gundam and the Penelope Gundam, which is
Which you
pretty
just
cool
covered.
because yeah, and yeah, with that video I put out recently, because it's interesting to hear about that Minovsky flight system where this is that next gen plasma physics. Well, not plasma, I guess more of the anti-gravity part of the physics that um I've been covering, like where it's able to just use the Minovsky field and just kind of move in the atmosphere however it wants. And it's cool that with that story, it's just like Anaheim, had the technology to build. Well, the Cheiron company in Anaheim built the Penelope, but other engineers at Anaheim stole the specifications to make the Kasai Gundam for MAFTI. And so it's cool though that we're seeing where it's the same technology but done in different ways. Where the Penelope has the fixed flight system, but the Kasai it's built in the Minovsky flight system. So that I love that type of stuff.
Now, do you think this is an interesting question around the Minovsky flight system is, the idea of atmospheric flight, how important, like, how most technological concepts in Gundam have almost a direct cause and effect. Like, I always go back to just the example of new types, right? If Minovsky particles disrupt radar communication and homing technology, then the only way to get around that is through psycho waves and new types being able to control things without relying on radar technology. So it's like there's almost like a direct cause and effect. The reason that new types become important is because of Minovsky particles. But Minovsky
Hmm.
flight systems and the idea of atmospheric flight on Earth, what do you think was the driving factor that made that important enough to build into the Kasai and Penelope? Because to that point in the Universal Century, there's no emphasis placed on flight systems, right? Like,
Unless the emphasis had to do on kind of like because it's atmospheric, the Earth kind of the lockdown. And so there was
mm,
maybe more put into atmospheric flight at that time to be able to, yeah, stop the terrorist in an atmosphere and not be in space. That's a cool question. I wonder if that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, that is pretty neat. Um, and then where was I gonna go with that? Well, okay, so the video I made, I love doing it where I can get these clips and you frame it just right and you won't get hit with the copyright. Obviously there's some cutting that has to be done, but if you like expand the frame, you can kind of get around it. But also lining up, like talking about the battles, like what I want to start doing, and it's going to take more time, is specify the names of the weapons. If it's a beam
Right,
rifle they're firing, instead of saying firing the beam rifle, name what it is.
right.
So like I would say there's going to be iterations. I would say it could be in a year I might do another battle video of this, but specify the weapons in use, things like that. It's just again like I talked earlier with the the Kira and Athen video and all that. I loved the character context around it, but now that I've kind of got that out of my system, knowing that that's okay, that's a part of the videos. The next is really getting into the technical specifications, because not only is it to be educational, but it gives me a reason to really learn this stuff and remember it.
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of like misconceptions that go around, you know, uh like the damage dealt by a 90 millimeter machine gun in Gundam is greater than that caused by a 120 millimeter like Zaku machine gun. So it's like, the because obviously, in our American brains, it's like mo caliber, mo better, right? Like bigger
Yeah,
bullet, bigger damage. But in Gundam, it's a little different, right? So like the 90 millimeter shells from a smaller machine gun that has maybe a higher rate of fire and a higher flight speed of the projectile does more damage than the larger, slower firearms from like the traditional Zaku. And you see that like represented in video games, and sometimes it's like counterintuitive because you're like, wait a second, why does the smaller caliber weapon deal more damage than the larger caliber weapon? And it's like you kind of have to dig into, like you said, the physics of it and
yeah.
understand that there's a lot more at play than just, bigger bullet, bigger bite.
Which is, it's funny because that's something that I've never really, and I'm glad you brought that up, because like all the time I'm reading, 90 millimeter, 120, but I really have no context for it. I
Yeah, and
really
I'm
don't.
not
And
a
I,
big I'm not a big gun enthusiast, but I am a fan of firearms, and so I like
oh,
studying these things and understanding them. But
okay. Yeah, for some reason I like the name of a weapon and the manufacturer
the
and their different lines.
VSBR and
But
like
to get into, yeah, like the caliber stuff, I need to get and understand that, because that's fun for these theoretical battles we might want to have with mobile suits, as we're chatting, or even with future videos. Especially, I want to get to the point where it's almost like when you play GBO2 and you're going out on the field and then the enemy's coming at you, you're like, okay, I know exactly what weapon he's going to use, so I know exactly what I need to do here. It's like that if I'm watching Gundam, I want to be like, oh, it's that against that. Because with the Japanese animation, they really stick to those details usually. Those things are really on point.
they do. And in a lot of ways it's like it's almost metagaming because and I brought this up when I first started that whole like dissecting Gundam series that I did, is it's like you have to understand that the first time that Jean and Denim see a beam saber, it's the first time they've ever seen a weapon like that, like ever. Like that's the idea of like a heat hawk or like a heat saber, that type of stuff had existed. Xeon had that technology, but then a beam saber,
Yeah.
that's like the first time that they ever saw a weapon like that. And so it's not just that that he cut a Zaku in half. It like, there's a lot of emphasis placed on, oh, well, Amuro cut this Zaku in half in one slice, and it was like, but yeah, I mean, it would be the equivalent of somebody showing up on like a battlefield in the Middle East with a beam rifle, and like we've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that before. And it's, you're
Like,
like, the destructive capacity of the weapons that they're carrying is far beyond anything that we're used to dealing with. And now we have to like rethink our entire military strategy, because it's not even just about this particular battle, but then how do you go up against an enemy that can make that type of technology?
that's why it was cool for, Char, like that when that first encounter happened, he backed away. He was like, wait a minute, something's going on here. He probably could have still took him out,
Yeah.
but he was like, okay, they have something new here, which, yeah, that reminds me of like the scene in The Boys where Homelander is having the daydream of like eyes beaming like the
Yeah.
crowd. Like that's what that beams, weapon would be. And, I wonder if it's funny because, and I keep going back to this stuff, it's fun, but the government and conspiracies and weapons, and you hear about weapons being used,
Oh yeah.
or, like that guy that, uh, used the Tesla truck and bombed, unfortunately. But he wrote a letter talking about, the weapons that are being used. He's uncomfortable with it and all that. And it's interesting stuff. But speaking of that, and man, I was thinking of pulling some segments for that for this show. But Palmer Luckey, are you familiar with the guy that
No.
made the Oculus Rift at 16? Yeah,
No.
yeah, he's a billionaire now. He's 33, but he made the Oculus Rift, the first, consumer virtual reality headset. Facebook bought it from him for like billions, and it became a billionaire at 26 or something. I forget. Anyway, he was on Rogan today, and he now works for the government designing weapons pretty much. And on it,
Interesting career path.
yeah, it is. But I guess the idea is he's doing a lot. He's building weapons that I guess are autonomous. So there's, which there's no way this can be a good thing, but it's like he can't harp on the guy, I guess, whatever.
Well, and I mean, the idea of autonomous weapons sounds so silly when you think about the type of like natural disasters that we can cause. I mean, like if you want to kind of go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, it's like you think about the flooding that happened in Texas that happened literally 2 days after a cloud seeding event. And, obviously, like they disavowed and said, oh, it wasn't us. Like we didn't seed the clouds that much. But then, like, guys, if you really aren't guilty, then why did you donate all that money to the families of the little girls that were killed?
Yeah. No,
Like,
so that's a good point, because I do think it's almost like with Elon Musk. When I heard this guy talking about the technology, it's like, oh, this is a guy that's not in the know. He's kind of a useful, I don't want to say a useful billionaire for the government to be like, okay, yeah, let's have you then work on this stuff. And so he even brought like this heads up display helmet that has wireless glasses you put on, and everyone can sync. So if someone sees a target and it's going behind something, you'll be able to see it behind.
total Ender's Game type stuff, man.
But what's interesting about that is I'm sure that stuff is already being used to get done the things that we're not supposed to know about. But it's just another example that pops up, and it kind of confirms, from Elon Musk to this guy, it's like these are the useful billionaires. Like, there's no way a rocket is going to be used to travel through space.
And that's like one of the big takeaways from the movie Oppenheimer, right? Is that like, Robert Oppenheimer, like he didn't think that he was going to develop a weapon that was going to cause this kind of mass destruction. He thought that he was contributing to research that was going to change humanity, and it did, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, the most profitable type of research, the most profitable type of technology is technology that can take people's lives, ironically. And so, I mean, it's silly to think about like things like, and going back to Witch from Mercury, right? Like the whole Gundam Inc. is built around, hey, we're going to make prosthetics for people that are, crippled by space flight. But in actuality, the true power of Gundams is the Gundams. It's the military aspect of the technology. And so, but at the same time, like I said, if you can create natural disasters where you can just like fake, oh, well, there was a hurricane that just wiped out all of our enemies. How coincidental was that? It's like, you don't even have to develop giant mechs. You just make hurricanes and make tsunamis and make
the
like
orbs that disappear.
Just make things disappear.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's and so that's why I always then keep thinking of Unicorn, Gundam Unicorn, because it kind of has that, where there are these corporations that have this technology that they're trying to, not let the public know about or change what is announced or not announced. Like, we look at it as more of a drama between like new types and old types, but it's really like a government conspiracy story. And
I mean, you're basically talking about, I mean, I don't know how conspiratorial you want to get with it, but it's like the Vist Foundation is kind of like the Israel to the Federation's United States, where it's like, hey, we're going to hold this secret over your head, for over 100 years and influence public policy because of this thing that we know about, right? Like,
that's so interesting. So it makes me appreciate Unicorn more, when at first I thought this is just a convoluted mess, but it's really trying to tell a modern story, maybe a story. And I know you disagree with everything I'm saying, but maybe a story that's ahead of its time. I don't know.
No, there are definitely some great things to take home about Unicorn. I really do wish that we had gotten to like see Fred Reber a little bit more and see the pilot of the Violent custom, because those are characters that, in a lot of ways, it's almost like we got this really deep insight into the character of Gilboa, right? Gilboa has this family. It exposed Benager to this idea that not everybody on both sides is a bad guy, or like,
Right.
Gilboa was this family man that was like, look, I'm fighting for independence because my family's been living in poverty for the past like 16 years, and this is my respite. And then when Gilboa gets shot down, like, it snaps Panager's brain.
Yeah.
Well, you look at characters like Fred Reber and like the Violent Pilot, and it's like these are guys that had been fighting since the 1 Year War. And so it's almost like, do you really need to create the character of Gilboa, or do you use characters that are already in universe that have already had backstories and then flesh them out and say, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I exactly understand 100%. Like that would have actually been that's a good example of something that could have been a little more connective without it being in your face, you know. It,
yeah, because they already did that essentially with Merida, right?
yeah, there's the
Merida
major,
Cruz is
yeah.
tied to Double Zeta. Like, you already have characters in Unicorn that are tied to other stories within the franchise, but then you don't use them to the same effect that you did Puru 12.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. Yeah, you're just reminding me how much I like Unicorn, you know. Even though I tell you, when I first watched it, it was one of the first I watched too. When I was like, "Oh, this is Gundam," yeah, because I built the real grade
Yeah,
Unicorn. So I'm like, "I'll watch Unicorn." I'm like, "Oh my god,
it's
what is
cool
this?"
shit.
No, at first I was like, "No way."
Well, obviously they just released Unicorn and the second half of G Gundam in G Generation Eternal. So I just played through the
Oh yeah.
Unicorn story missions like a couple times, and I'm like,
Oh, I gotta do
all
that.
right, there's some cool Unicorn stuff going on. Like, they put the Ifrit Schneid in there, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotta do that. I like jumped in the other day and I played like from the new part 2 of Stardust Memory. I did some of that.
yeah,
I gotta play more. But hey,
100%.
let's move on to something else real quick.
And now for something completely different.
It's still Gundam related. What
Yeah,
what about that? No. So I guess Bandai has announced that there's gonna be a new announcement on the 17th, which is tomorrow, okay, of a new master grade. And I gotta say, I don't really keep up with master grades, or usually if something gets released, I'm like, "Oh, cool, that got released." Um, and so anyway, there's some guesses. Zaku Aurelius, he's the one who posted this and said, "I think I'm putting my call in for Mighty Strike Freedom slash Sword background colors Bandai Love Seed master grades." Um,
they
I
do.
guess slash. Oh yeah, at the beginning there, and it cuts it, but it is red. What would be red?
Hmm.
Astray.
IBO, G Gundam, yeah, Stray.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I do think the Mighty Strike Freedom would be cool. So it would be a Master Grade, not a Master Grade Extreme, which is they have the Strike Freedom for. So
Yep.
this would be like a Strike Freedom Type 2. So, and you know what? This is where I'm not too familiar with it. I'm not familiar with Master Grade Seed suits at all. I don't have any Master Grade Seed suits. I just have the Extreme. So I don't even know if like they came out with a Freedom Type 2 recently or what. Do you have any idea?
None. None at all. Yeah, I don't collect master grades, and you know, maybe I'm unpopular for this, but like, man, the guys that are like the master grade exclusive club that's like, I don't build high grades. I only build master grades. That kind of attitude just puts me off to Gundam fans
Uh,
entirely. Like, can't do it.
well, the weird thing about it is like I think master grades are awesome, but price versus with the Gunpla, it's the high grades basically. It's cheaper. You can be a little bit more experimental and
Yeah,
not worry too much, especially if it's a kit that's easy to get, that's not too expensive, and you can have
100%.
scenes, dioramas. Um,
There's so much more flexibility with a high grade, or even like, what's crazy is it's almost like I would rather either have a high grade or a perfect grade real grade. To me, a master grade is like just enough detail that it's inconvenient, but not enough detail that it's like truly impressive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think the only time I've been impressed by a master grade was the and this is weird because it's not my type of suit, but the Sananju Stein Verka that I got from Art Rovo Gundam.
Yeah,
Just because the build and what it was like, oh, this is actually really cool. I think it's because it's more of a meat. It's not a full on Xeon suit. It's not a full on Federation suit. It's like that in between. It's not too chunky. It's not skill. It's like so it just lent itself well to the parts forming
just
or
had good proportions
good
to it.
proportions. And
So, how many master grades do you have in your collection?
that's a good question. So this is the other part I wanted to get to because I'm going to ask you the same thing because, like, I think it would be cool to get a Mighty Strike Freedom, but I would get others. So, for instance, my first was the Master Grade Origin RX-78-2, which I think
It's
is
a good
pretty
one.
cool, but it's too finicky. When things are finicky, I really don't care for it.
Yeah, if parts are falling off and like that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, someone in the chat saying, didn't they say it was a Vinant Astray? I don't know but that would make sense because of the red we saw at the beginning. I just think red Astray, but there's blue and gold, so maybe all that.
Well, but the red astray is like the one that's the most popular,
Right.
like the one that has the giant katana and
Or that Musashi Gundam, because I think they announced a new one too that, it's like, red and has the swords, but it's
right,
like
the
from
one that's like from Dynasty Warriors, the
Dynasty.
Musha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after the Master Grade Origin, and this is like when I first got into Gundam, I then got the F91, and I really like it. But that's not like you were saying, it's not incredible or anything. And plus, they're smaller. So it's a version 2.0, and it has the light. That's more of a fun project with a light. And I
Yeah.
think it's worth it for that. Now, the Mark II 2.0 is amazing. That was my third or fourth. Detailed up, comes with that launcher. And then the Victory 2 Verka, which it looks great, falls apart. The Zeta Verka looks cool. Mine falls apart. But I will say, and there might be some more, like, I've built the Zaku 2, the RX-78 2.0, but the line from War in the Pocket, the Master Grade
Uh,
Alex Choban armor, and then the Master Grade Camphor, and then the RU-100 Zaku 2.
yeah, the RE100 Zaku Kai is
Yeah.
fantastic. One of my favorite kits.
So how many have you built? Because I know you have the Zeta Verka.
So I have the Zeta 2.0 and the Zeta Verka, which it's like the Zeta Verka for me stays together a little bit better, but I like the proportions of the Zeta 2.0 better. There's just so many quirky things where it's like, the shoulder armor is held on by like the tiniest little thread of a circle on it's just poor design in my opinion. But I do have a RX-78 too. I have Char Zaku. I've got a Goof Custom. I've got a GM. I built not the Verka Double Zeta, but the old Master Grade Double Zeta. So I've built a handful of Master Grades. And I'll be honest with you, it's like, for me, the pilot figures are probably the most exciting part of it.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it's like the internal components are more inconvenient for me when I'm trying to put like LEDs in them and I'm trying to run wires through things. It's like I would almost rather work with a high grade, or
Yeah.
if we're working with like a higher detail level, it's like I'd rather work with a perfect grade or a real grade where at least I've got a lot more channels to run wires through and that sort of thing. And to me, it's like real grades are the most satisfying build experience. Just something about that level of detail at that scale is really nice. But yeah, I mean, dude, even prior, I guess I don't know if these count as master grades, but I did build like the entire line of wing 1/100 scale kits from back in the day.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good one. Speaking of sets,
Those typically are a little bit more like high grades, though.
okay, and real quick, someone in chat is saying, is anyone talking about the new product announcement from today, or should I not talk about it? Do you
I
know
mean,
it?
that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. If there's a product, if they announced what that is, let us know. I was looking on the Bandai Spirits page. Actually, I can do that in a screen share. What I saw was this Tifa Adil figure eyes.
This one we talked about a couple weeks ago
Oh,
because
did
it comes with like the seated version, like
oh,
because
that's
because
right.
she comes with two sets of
Painting.
legs, one that comes in the chair and one that's like standing. So
Does she have the painting, the easel?
I don't
Or
remember if she had the
maybe
easel.
that's a weird thing that popped in my head. I totally forgot about this because yeah, I would put this with my robot spirits. Uh,
Best girl Tifa, man.
yeah, you know what? Out of a lot of the Gundam I watched, these two main characters, Garrett and Tifa, amazing, awesome story. Like in
Yeah,
terms of just like
100%.
caring about each other and stuff like that. Like it's
I think
um
Garrett is like the he's like the best version of Judo because he has like the
yeah,
same sort of like rebellious child aspect to him as Judo Ashta, but he does take things a little bit more seriously
and cares
and
about people,
um
like
yeah, he cares
for real.
about people.
Because like as much as I like Camille, I think he should have been nice to Fa the whole time. You know what I mean?
I
Like
you know
straight up.
what? I think that there's something to that because if Tomino rewrote the ending of a new translation to be that Fa and Camille end up together, and if you think about it, it's like Camille doesn't even have his like affair with Four to the same extent that he
Yeah.
does in the series.
Yeah, that's yeah, because I tell you, and maybe that's what's compelling about the character of Fa. She's like willing to be there for him, help, and it was like that with Fraubo too. Um, and you know these characters, and it makes you think, oh, is that what Japanese women are like? Or is that a stereotype, or
Yeah,
what Tomino wants from his women?
well, I still need to finish this video, but to me, it's like all of the women in Zeta represent some type of relationship that a woman can have to a man to Camille, where it's like Emma represents like kind of the older sister archetype to Camille. Rosamia is the younger sister.
Yeah,
Um, Fa is a friend that also is a love interest, whereas Four is more of like a romantic sexual interest.
right. Yeah,
Like and what's interesting about Camille's character is that he gets confused when he's interacting with like literally each of these women. There's one point where he's like attracted to them, and then there's another point where he thinks that they're annoying, and there's another
yeah.
point that like he's trying to figure out where all of these women fit in his life. And what's interesting is that all of the women in Zeta somehow fit into Camille's life. It's like as a mother, as a sister, as a lover. There's like it's really interesting the dynamics that Camille has with the women in Zeta.
Okay, because you could almost say that's the same with Shar. And so I wonder how much this is a new type thing where when women are around or men or the opposite sex are around a new type, it brings out like a focus on a specific quality of theirs. And that's what Hathaway is going through right now with Gigi. Like I think that if because we're just speculating that that's the intent of how Camille and the women characters were written, but
Yeah.
it's almost in line with that sort of new type phenomenon and how characters are drawn into each other emotionally with certain dynamics.
And there's a lot of confusion about what they represent because
Yeah,
even with Shar and Lala, it's like, well, is she a romantic interest? Is she a mother? Like what is she's everything to him. And so
yeah.
it's like
And what
um
if that is what it is to be a new type and that whole of understanding each other, because it's less about putting people in a certain like, oh, this is who this is and what I get from them. You know what I mean?
right.
Instead, it's almost shown more of an openness, which, yeah, I mean, that's some neat, deeper themes that Gundam seems to represent.
It kind of reminds me of like I don't know if you ever I don't think you read the comic book Watchmen, but did you watch the movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like the whole where Dr. Manhattan, once he realizes like his critical mass or whatever, and he like basically it exists in all times at once. And there's that part of the movie where he's narrating and he's like, it's 1965 and I'm this, this, and this. It's 1982 and I'm this, this, and this. It's 1987, I'm this, and this. It's like that's almost what it's like to be a new type and to have that level of omnipotence where you're existing at all points in all times at all
Yeah.
times. And it's like what's the movie called, right? Everything everywhere all at once. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
like, that is what Dr. Manhattan is, and that is what it's like being a new
Being a new
type, is
type.
what I imagine. It's like, you
Yeah.
know
Getting pulled, all the emotions, like a lot of like even Benager and the pilot of the Shamblo. Remember, it's like
Yeah,
he
Loney,
he
yeah.
he shows up, yeah, and he's able to kind of like again these. Oh, this person showed up, and then there's a different emotional sort of draw to each other that distracts them from what they're
And it's
doing.
crazy because it's like Loney Garvey is a character that only appears in Unicorn, like, right then. It's
Yeah, I
not like
know.
she and Benager have this shared history, but then, like, as soon as he arrives on the scene, there's this tension and there's this gravity between them where it's like she feels seen because he is seeing her, and I
Well,
mean,
so you could almost say that there's this intentional over dramaticism with new type encounters in UC
100%.
Gundam. But do you think it's intentional? Or do you think that's just how the translating of the Japanese or and sort of the anti-war message?
I mean, I think that it could be a bit of both, right?
Okay.
Like because it's the same as I always compare Gundam to Ender's Game because there's like as Ender is proceeding through or Andrew Wiggin, whatever you want to call him, when he's going through the program of becoming this star pilot that kills aliens, there's the conflict that he has within him where it's like once you start to understand the buggers, you know once you know their story, you fall in love with them. And that's the whole reason that they created this like video game system where kids can just like play video games and kill enemies,
Yeah.
is that they knew they couldn't put kids against the enemy and still win because they would start to side with the enemy. And that's the whole kind of premise behind Ender's Game. Spoiler alert, it's an old book. But it's the same thing that you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
in
You see.
Universal Century Gundam, where they're telling Amuro like go out and kill the enemy, and he's feeling where Lala is coming from. He's feeling where Char is coming from, and he's like, I can't kill them.
Yeah.
They're not my enemy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
It's
it's a
the system. Which
it's
which I loved when I was doing the Penelope video and Kasai, because that's kind of what is lane aim of the Penelope. He represents the system, and
yeah.
that's what Mafty is fighting. It's not that lane aim is bad, and I love how that works in that
I think that
story.
Lane and Riddy have a lot in common. Where it's
Yeah,
like Riddy Marcinus is part of that system where he doesn't realize that he's like a cog in the machine.
yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. And then I love Riddy's arc and all that. Well, let's move on to this other thing because there's some cool mobile suits we mentioned that I want to bring up that we'll bring up in this next fun little thing here that I've got. And so
Definitely.
this segment is the top 5 most over-engineered mobile suits in the Universal Century. So, FYI, AI helped write this, so I usually have it add some quirkiness. Some of it doesn't make
Is there
sense.
like a badge that you have to put on the video? Like
I do. I have to notate AI. I have to tell people get your tissues ready. I don't know what did that part mean, but anyway, the number 5 of the most over-engineered mobile suits is the MSN 02 Zeong. They call it the headless wonder of a Baoku, but I don't understand why.
well, I guess it did lose its head.
Yeah, then maybe that's what they're referring to because I was thinking legs, but why it's over-engineered? A Saikamu prototype that doesn't even have legs because they ran out of time, yet it's wired for full-body remote limb control. So, tech bloat, full Saikamu system, 10 megaparticle cannons, detachable head with independent operation. So I guess that's what they're referring to as wonder because detachable head for independent operation.
Yeah.
Why it's brilliant anyway, essentially a test bed for the Elmith and the Neo Zeong line, a literal unfinished god. Okay. Tagline, half complete, double the over engineering. So maybe. Number 4, the unicorn, the walking psychoframe catastrophe. Why it's over engineered. A full body psychoframe turns the entire suit into a psychic amplifier and possible WMD. Tech bloat, psycho field energy manipulation, NTD system, automatic reconfiguration, beam magnum that overheats itself. Why it's brilliant anyway, represents humanity's desperate attempt to weaponize new type potential. Built to communicate with God, but reports to Anaheim Electronics. That's pretty cool.
There's definitely some like political undertones to that.
Yeah.
Can we stop there for a second though, because like that is something that didn't get explored in Universal Century that does in Witch from Mercury. Is like the idea of a full body Psychomu mobile suit. Nobody ever thought, wait a second, like you could, because the whole thing in Witch from Mercury is the data storms can be overwhelming and it can like create this overload in people's brains. Nobody thought that like cramming more psycho frames into a mobile suit might potentially create like a psychic disruption.
That's why they have those. They need a like narrative. That's why they have those things that well, actually, it's almost like it's repeated itself multiple times. Or there's been these disaster scenarios, and like, oh well, let's just add more psycho frame. That's literally Well,
in case of emergency, break glass and add more psycho frames.
But that's funny because it makes me think that could be something we could calculate within the Universal Century. How much has a creator pushed something too far and it got themselves killed?
Oh man, how much time do you have?
I know, so that might be something I might have to look into. Okay, so that was Unicorn at number 4. Number 3, the RX-93 New Gundam, too smart for its own good. Why it's over-engineered, custom built by Amuro with an experimental miniaturized psycho frame crammed into an otherwise conventional MS. Tech bloat, fin funnels double as remote shields, flight system borders on mobile armor level, because the new Gundam has that flight system that makes pretty good. Reactor barely fits the frame. That I'm not too familiar with, but why it's brilliant anyway. The result of Amuro's obsession with efficiency, an overachiever that saved the Earth. And the tagline is every part is a prototype. Which, okay. Number 2, the Penelope. I think this is a good one. When engineers get paid by the panel line. That's pretty good. Why it's over-engineered. The entire armor is a modular flight system, the fixed flight unit, wrapped around a Gundam that's already excessive. Tech bloat. Independent Minovsky flight system, Psychomu weaponry, detachable armor, insane maintenance hours. Why it's brilliant anyway, a fusion of test data and chaos that paved the way for the Kasai Gundam, which is true. Tagline, if a transformer and a jet engine had a child. That's pretty good. Yeah, good job.
I like
okay,
that.
And here's the number 1 is the Banshee Norn. When you need more unicorn per unicorn. Why it's over-engineered. They took the unicorn, made it gold, added more weapons, another psycho frame resonance mode, and a psycho weapon controller. But that's not accurate, though, right?
Well, because it has the claw, right? The Banshee Norn in particular has the...
Yeah, so I wonder if it meant then the...
like the full armor?
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. Because I like the when you need more unicorn per unicorn, because it gets pretty insane on its the V-fin. But anyway, tech bloat. Let's look at this. Armed armor, VN, BS, DE shield, NTD, overload, variable, psychoframe reaction. I mean, I guess that's correct, but the gold thing, I don't. Why it's brilliant anyway. An unhinged mirror of its sibling, ultimate over design as a metaphor for control and chaos. Tagline, because one apocalyptic unicorn wasn't enough. So,
I mean, the Banshee is like the shadow to the unicorn Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Yeah, to where it like fails and they have to like build it back up to try to make it, and it just makes it look darker. Like I like that whole the shadow thing. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So what they're saying here is over designed. I would almost say the Penelope is a good example, just because the Kasai already shows that you could streamline that. And in the first battle, as we saw in my video, the Kasai beat the Penelope.
And I'm not surprised that AI didn't pick this up, but it's like something like the Overon is a perfect example of over design. Because
that's
in the same way as like the Penelope is a Gundam with a Gundam wrapped around it. The Overon is a Gundam with the O wrapped around it. Like
that's okay. So that's a good one. Because there was other honorable mentions, like the Nightingale. I mean, I have the high grade, and that thing's just over designed.
I love the tagline on that though. Too big to fit in its own story.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The Kshatriya, 4 binders, 24 funnels, and emotional baggage. The Neo Zeong, the literal definition of too much Gundam. So that's funny. I, so like when it
What
comes
would
to
be
that,
your ad?
what's that?
What would be your ad to this list?
I like the Penelope because to me, I feel like the Penelope, when they designed it, it was on purpose. The artist that designed it, he does designs like that are exaggerated. So I almost like that because not functionally, but design wise, it's like over, But um, I wonder. I would probably go to some advanced of Zeta suits. Especially when they
Oh,
have the modulation on it. Even the
yeah.
way if you watch my office tour video, the metal build, or no, the metal robot spirits Hazel I had the option part set. It doesn't even look like a Hazel anymore because I have all these option parts on it to make it something else entirely.
Yeah, once you get to like the Queenly and
Yeah,
like that stuff, that's just
yeah, exactly. So that's what I think would be. Although I like that they brought up the Kshatriya because I do think even with the design of the binders, it's like they purposely made them look more like insect like or creature-esque.
and I mean the Queen Mantha looks very
That's
insectoid.
right. Yeah.
But it does feel like the Kshatriya is, hey, we saw like we saw your Queen Mantha. Let's just so the Queen Mantha has 2 chest cannons. The Kshatriya has 4. The Queen Mantha has
Oh, yeah.
2 wing binders. The Kshatriya has 4. It's like everything about the Kshatriya's design is, hey, I see you, Queen Mantha. Hold my beer. I'm gonna double it. Like,
That's a good point when you put it that way. And I guess it has that extra sheen of style and fashion because of the sleeves. I think that kind of
yeah,
helps.
the
And
sleeves do add a nice touch.
I have my robot spirits Kshatriya in reach, but due to trying to organize where I have the glass cabinet, I can't open the door unless I move stuff. So it's just I've got to find a reason to like pull out some of these bigger, more unwieldy Gundam collectibles I have and maybe do posing videos or something because I've already reviewed some of this stuff, but I want to have a reason to get them out.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, and then yeah, I guess we'll end that there. That was a little fun segment.
I
So
love the tone that your particular AI takes with you because it really does capture your level of sarcasm and like I mean, and I know that not everybody appreciates this, but it's like the more you interact with large language models, they start to kind of adopt your own
yep,
personality, your own sense of humor, your own idiosyncrasies is the word I'm looking for.
right. And yeah, there's times where I'll have to be like, let's back off the humor, or I'll be like, hey, actually, let's make jokes in this. Oh yeah, there was that one episode where we did like naked Gundam
Yeah,
jokes. Yeah, that
we
they
definitely need to
weren't that
bring
great.
that back because that was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, that was. I love stupid jokes like that. But anyway, so yeah, we're gonna head on out. But all thanks for joining. We'll be back next week. Most likely, I'll be on Steven's show next week on Wednesday, and then we'll have the next show on Thursday. And then anything to bring up, Steven, at all?
No, no, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for hanging
Yeah.
out with us and stay tuned for next week. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that'll be good. All right, see y'all. Have a good one.